Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks to the remote sensing Italian society, which is something that I'm really fond of. I mean, they've been carrying the... Sorry, can you hear me? That's it? Far away. Well, okay. So we move from science and from very high-level technological approach about remote sensing. Professor Gamba is one of the best in Italy, so I think he has shown something which is very important that I've been stressing all over the world. I mean, the competencies, Italian competencies, are no lower than any other in the world. I mean, we are able just to face problems with a very, very good background and experiences as well. Now I move from that word to another one, the word of the let's say, Earth observation. This is was the past coming back about earthquake. The Earth observation word and space word. I use Earth observation first and after space, because when we talk about, and I'm a member of the Italian delegation since 2005 in Copernicus, at the very beginning, actually was one of the, let's say, the left of the first step starting in Baveno in 1998. I'm one of the oldest now, is alive, I mean, more or less. And starting from that date, I wanted to go through just a new revolution about the fact that I say the data are commodities, as well as the in situ data are commodities. Satellite data are commodities for us, as well all the other data or information which are coming into the general machine to work out higher level information that we need just to take decisions. This is quite an important statement, because still now there is a big fight about a new regulation about space, and there are very strong forces pushing for define this regulation as a space regulation. It's not space regulation in itself. It's sometimes more space regulation, sometimes more Earth observation regulation. So we have to take in account this. The Copernicus is just about that. So just getting very, very quickly through this presentation, I skip through very quickly. I like to start with this sort of brief introduction to the evolution of the European and national space and policy economy, because we are talking, they asked me to talk about space economy, and but I wanted to make clear the statement that I used at the very beginning of my speech. And I started from Baveno, 1998, 20 years ago, and this was just a very Copernican revolution. It was a very, very, very peculiar start, because a bunch of people, 7 people, started saying that and just pushed to the European Commission and ESA just to have a sort of long-term commitment to have a global observation capability, European global observation capability, for the reason of agriculture, environmental safety and security, and so on. And this was the very beginning. Before that date, the space policy was just space component economy. And it was mainly about launchers, satellites, telecommunication, ground segments, and it used to have 2 big communities devoted to this sort of target. The main, let's say, community was the security community, defense, if you want, security in a very strong way, and the research community. These 2 communities were just the very beginning of the space economy. The space economy was aerospace economy, and which is very small application fallout from that investment. And from Baveno, we move to a new economical approach, starting from and using also satellite information, along all the other information and data that we can collect and gather together just to have this sort of new and high-level approach to the information that we give it to take a decision. And this is the service component economy. It starts in 1998, actually. After 12 years, we get an European regulation, and which was the very beginning of this revolution. And this is just, the statement is just that our aim is to develop and manage a platform capable of developing information of higher level and provision of services of higher added value. Added value of what? At the beginning was an institutional added value. Let's say, civil protection. You are able to have information using satellite information in situ data just to act in a very faster way, an effective way. So the added value was an institutional added value. Wasn't just a market added value. Exactly like for defense. Not really, at that time we look at the market. But the third step, which is the Copernicus step, we said, okay, we demonstrated that investment was a good investment. We get very good results. We got something which was very effective. Now we have to move just to make the investment more effective on a public and private market. This is the real new target that we started in 2014, and this is the real new step. Now we are starting the fourth step. I don't know about the fourth step. There is, as I said, a big fight, and we'll see through that. But very quickly, I tell you about Copernicus, because as far as I experienced in these years, everybody speaks about Copernicus. Everybody used to speak about GMS, but few knew and still know about GMS and Copernicus. They think it's about financing funds for research. They think it's something that you get in your iPhone. You think that is something very nice to see as we use in the past, like imagery for calendars, something which we weren't able just to measure, just to have some real numerical information to work and to with which to work and from which to get new, larger and deepest information. So Copernicus has some principles which are about the fact that it is tailored on the needs and of users and supporting all the unions and state members. I added to that policies. The second is that was a political choice. Paolo Gamba talked about Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, Sentinel-5B, and so on. We are going to have a very large European constellation, a system of constellations, if you want. Why with that? We decide not to use any more Earth, not to use any more RadarSat, but to be independent as Europe from all the other information coming from the space. That was a political choice. It wasn't, I'm from Genoa, so it wasn't the cheapest one, but was politically defined that we had to go through that choice to be independent from all the other, let's say, bunch of countries, because talking about Europe, sort of common, it's a common system, is not real a nation still. I mean, it's not yet. It's not at all. I mean, so, but the major point is that Copernicus is user-driven. It's not scientifically driven. It's not financially driven. It's not industrially driven, but is also from research community, from industrial community, from institutional community driven, from all the community as a common interest. So how is Copernicus driven? In fact, is through two different, let's say, committee. One is the committee, the political committee in the European comitology, the committee who is in charge of defining the political decision, but is supported by something else very important, which is the user forum at the European level. Well, all the communities are represented. And this is the key point about Copernicus. So probably you know, but I don't know, I let you know that Copernicus has got two components, starting from that long way. One is a space, and the other is a service component. And the service component is the real add value of this program. The space component is a commodity. It costs quite a lot. It costs 2/3 of the whole investment. And the 2/3, 1/3, somebody should think about that. So very quickly, if you go deep inside about the fact that Copernicus has to support the national implementation of several, all I would to say, all the directive and the regulation and decision of at the European level, as well as the national decision, well, you link the 6 core services. The core services are, one is land. You are talking about land, urban areas, and other things like that. The other is marine. The other is security, the last one. The emergency, the climate change, the atmosphere, and security. Security is coming up now. Since it was our business, Mediterranean business, wasn't nobody care about that. When the immigration business became something very important for Europe, all Europe, security services went up quite quickly, because I'm the oldest one and all the way we got through. And but if you think about these core services, well, really, these core services are linked to the directive in one side. This is just an example, a general example. Is larger, is wiser than that, is larger than that. But I mean, you can link the directive to some application domains. And the application domains are the application domains of the interest of the different user communities. And you can demonstrate that as well. You are able to see that for each bunch of for each application domain, you have a bunch of core services that are useful for that application domain, not just one, more than one. At the same time, you face different directives. So this idea of cross-bridging from the different application domain, different core services, is one of the basic idea of the Copernicus, GMS first, and after Copernicus as well. And which are the user communities? Copernicus defines quite well the communities. Say more or less that there are 4 large families of communities. The first one is the core users, are more or less the institutional users. The second one, you are the second one, the researcher's user, which is the second one, which is the community for me. It's not different from the civil protection, defense, agriculture community, and so on. At the same time, you have the third one, which is also important, which is the industrial one. I mean, aerospace is, I care about aerospace business in Copernicus, as well as, for example, farmers, or fishers, other things like that. I mean, just talking about, for example, local transports, other things, or other in commercial, not industrial users, and so on. The third one, charities, non-governmental organization, and international organization. FOE is exactly one of these, I mean, if you think about that. But how we work with the community at the national level? We have a national user forum, exactly like at the European level. Very quickly, I use the National User Forum just to know what I have to represent at the European level. I am a delegate. It's not what I have in my mind. I have to pick up the general ideas and the general assessment and the definition of what I have to support or to be against at the European level in a way. And the tool is exactly the Copernicus National User Forum. So the National User Forum has first aim is just to share information, coordinate, and coordinate decision. And at the same time, the second is very important as well, is to work out the needs and requirements of each community about a target, an aim that we want to reach. For example, interferometry, about ground movement. Which are the needs of the different community, geological community, environmental community, civil protection community, defense community. Defense used just to see where they cannot see in a visible way, to use interferometry, just for defense. And so, which are the needs of each community to use that technology or to reach that aim? I want to see the movement of that building. I want to see the movement of a volcano. I want to see a movement of a landscape, something like that. These are the targets. And which are the requirements? I want to see that once a year, a quarter of a year, each day, every 6 months, 1 hour, 1 second. Well, 1 second. We don't have such a technology now. But if we merge that information with something else, not only instrumental, for example, a manned system, probably we get that about more or less at the level of that time scale. So, as Paolo Gamba said, we are not taking just one tool, just one method, just one target, but just to get a goal, we have to merge all the tools that we have, all the methods that we have, and using them in a very sharp way, we are able just to get the better answer. You have demonstrated with the basic idea that there is behind Copernicus approach. But the most important thing is that you have a core services at the European level. And at the national level we have, and downscaling at the regional level and the municipality level and so on, we have what we call the downstream services. So we are talking about services. No, I'm not talking about products. A service is made by products, a portfolio of products and processes and methods. And all together these make up a service. The National User Forum is organized this way. All the community are represented formally, and the decision comes up more or less about this scheme. Very quickly, if you carry on, let's say, a statistical approach about the interest of the user communities, the different user community on the different application domains, you find that more or less, that's why we use this sample just to have an example, more or less is the same. I mean, all the community have an interest, a bit of interest in the other. This is the demonstration of the cross-crossing importance of using different approach as well as different services. I'm not going through a very long method that we use just to work out the needs and requirements of application and requirements for new technologies. But there is a sort of interaction, non-linear interaction between the community, the scientific community, the institutional community, the industrial community, they work, and our duty is just to work out synthesize the process to work out a defined result. This is a very synthetic way to show the result, but this is really a new one. It's more or less scientific from a certain point of view. You have the wavelength spectrum here, and you have the different, as you could see, the different application domain. And so you, from this gap, as well as the application gap. So you could see, for example, that you have some areas which is, it's quite clear, is just fitted with a lot of technology, is the visible one, and more or less all the application domain are presented in that area, but you have a different, for example, for different, some of the application domain have different needs, and they have already different tools or technologies which are able to support their needs. And this is quite an important result. Very quickly I go on that. So everything is fine. Certainly, it works perfectly well. We have the community, we have the decision, we have the curve. Now it's not that. If you work the results that we get, still now, we get a very, very large and successful access to the data. This is just official data, official results and official data, official information. And you can get, this is a huge amount. So we are talking about big data also. This is one important point. About the use of sentinels. And you can see that sentinels are not really only very intensively used, but broadly used all over the world. But still, we are in the first step of the policy. So, the availability of data. Go down, you see, for example, for land, but I mean, well, not bad. Huh? The users' number and volume increases quite a lot. Well, that's successful. These core services are working very well. I mean, that's really, everybody's using them. And no, it's not exactly that. And this is a pity. This is a problem for me as a delegate. If you wanted the community, the largest community still, again, is the research community. It is not our target. We have to improve such, this is about marine, exactly the same. This is just a focus on an indicator about the uses of industries, let's say commercial enterprises of the marine, and you see that more or less is about the 40%. And the 40% is about choices at the European level, for example, services about the coastal areas and so on. Then I jump to this, the last few slides. Then we have to solve this problem. 2016, we started in 1998. 2016, we said, okay, how we face this problem? With three tools, or three actions. The first one is the simplification of the access at not only data and information. The number of information that you get from the core services is huge, terabytes of information, as well as data. So, to get an easier way to get this information. The second one is improve the user uptake. This is exactly what I've been doing so far here, just to make your concern about the possibility to use this in an open, free, and free of charge way. And the third one is to develop and offer a downstream, let's say, to develop a downstream industries or downstream service offer, and at the same time to develop the possibility for this enterprise area to be sustained at the national level. So the first one, I jumped at, we decide for what we call 5 platforms, which are called the Data and Information Access System, You can read through that. Everybody probably has heard about these platforms. And this is the new start of the first stage of Copernicus story. They are just not only, they don't just only optimize the availability of data information. They offer also some, let's say, big data management tools and hyper computing resources. So it's something quite good. Okay, I'm in the end. I jump to that. The second one, the user uptake. The user uptake has got more or less 16 actions, but 4 of them are the most important for us at the national level. Is the national topical seminars, the relays, the fast pace, Copernicus Academy, as you can read through, and open geodata and satellite facility schools. We are trying to work out some national networks just to organize this user uptake. It's quite successful in Italy, as well as in France and Spain and so on. The third one is the space economy. The space economy is to support the development of downstream services at the national level. So it's not money just for the space component, but it's money for the service component. And also, if you need, for the space component as well. This is quite an important statement. This is the general, comes from a general European space strategy that we actually helped just to build up. I mean, that's something that as a country I'm really, really proud of. And from that, the national space economy is organized in a space national strategic plan, which has been partly financed already, and I'm very tired. And it has been organized in different pillars, in 6 pillars, which are more or less the working groups of the cabina di regia in Presidenza del Consiglio. One of these is Mirror Copernicus. It's about Copernicus, and it's about Copernicus, and it is organized in as well in different pillars. These pillars are called national operational infrastructures, and one is for marine monitoring, the other is for emergency, the other is for climate service, and for security and the coastal monitoring. There is a general one, which is a general platform like a DIAS at the European level, at DIAS at the national level. More or less, this is the logical lot of the system. Just an example, what I mean with downstream services. For example, when we talk to the national infrastructure, operational infrastructure for coastal monitoring, which is the sort of downstream service that about which I can think, or I can imagine, to work out. I mean, that's it. If you think about the coastal area, you have different factors forcing the situation and the evolution of the situations as well. I mean, just to give an example, these are the different pressure factors on coastal areas. Taking 2 of them, for example, waves. Already, in this you have some applicative platform, just to use satellite as well in situ data to work out, for example, a larger scale, a smaller scale, downscaling from up to down, from down to up, to have a real-time or quasi-real-time information about waves, wave height, And exactly, the other one is, for example, to have a monitoring activity about the plume of the river during the cycle and daily, with a daily pace, which is quite an important one for the water quality, but not only for the water quality, but for the environmental situation, for the ecosystem, for everything you want, for pollution and other things like that. You put all this applicative platform in a crunchy modeling system all together, and you work out the portfolio of the products. You work out a higher level platform able to just to give you higher level information and so on. For example, this is a coming example of complex platform about coastal areas, and you can see here that you have to use different satellite platform. You have to use different in situ data. You have to use different modeling approach. You have to different that. That's it. That's a big story within small, and I hope that I was able just to let you know about Copernicus more than what you know you knew before I started this speech. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thank you, Bernardo.